Hello, everyone. Been meaning to do a couple of response videos, and I've been kind of struggling a little bit with video production and creation. Not so much because I don't have any ideas, but I guess I just haven't been really inspired with too many things. Um, this one topic did really kind of get me thinking, and it's kind of been something that I've been sort of struggling with. And so I am doing a response video. Pardon me while I look down and to my left so that I have the prompts in front of me. But this is a video, a book buying Q&A that was originally made by Alex's Archives and was followed up by Mike at Bibliophile Bookscape. And so based on Alex's questions and both of their videos, I thought I would put together my own response. And Alex's video was really a response to a series of videos that went around BookTube a month or two ago about, especially for people who had very large book collections, just the topic of, what did they plan on doing with this amount of books, in the event of their passing. How did they want these books to be disposed of? How did they feel about them? Were they going to, was the idea that, were they going to, maybe get rid of them, unhaul them first, or donate them to a library, or things of that nature? And so Alex responded to sort of that series of videos with a set of questions relating to how people buy books and how they read books. And so that's sort of the background for this. And I thought he had some really good questions. Question number one: how many books do you own? Physical, digital, or just physical, whatever makes the most sense to discuss. I'm not a big e-reader, as I'll get to in the next couple of questions. I do have a lot of physical books. I don't know exactly how many. I have tried to, just kind of the last couple of days, I've been counting the number of books on different shelves or in different rooms and kind of trying to extrapolate. And I think I'm probably in the neighborhood of about 1,500 books, and it might be a little bit more than that. So my book collection is really large, and I have in the past year unhauled, I don't know, maybe 50 to 75, kind of a very small fraction of those. But the number of books in the house really is kind of excessive, and they sort of overflow the shelves that I have, and are sort of making life a little bit difficult in terms of managing my clutter and just sort of keeping on top of things. And so I am again sort of facing the challenge of how do I think about buying books or obtaining books in the future, and what books can I start to unhaul or donate? And I don't have any immediate plans to move, but I am pushing 60 years of age, and I think within the next few years, I think there's going to be I'm going to be facing a reckoning with how to move these books and how to store them if I, for example, were to downsize, as I would kind of like to do. But anyway, I'm sort of rambling and getting ahead of things. But anyway, I have a lot of physical books, and Yeah, so that's my situation. Number 2, what percentage of your books do you think you have actually read? I don't know if this means read in completion or how many have I read at least some part of it. Again, I'm going to take a really wild stab at this and say that I have read something from at least half of the books, kind of along with my book buying and book collecting problem, if that's kind of what it is. I just have, like many people on BookTube, have bought a lot of books and not always read them. That will sort of get to the next couple of questions of, how am I learning or transitioning to read or obtain books and perhaps better target my book buying and my book obtaining to books that I think I'm going to read, in the near future. Question 3 is, what percentage do you realistically think that you will read? This is another factor that is influencing how I approach my book collection. And I think the short answer is, I think I sort of once imagined that I would read, if not all, at least most of the books in my collection. And it's becoming increasingly clear that I just know that that's not going to happen. So I would only say, maybe my hope would be to read, a portion of the books I haven't read, but maybe in line with that, as I think about kind of downsizing and reducing the scale of books in my home, certainly I would want to read at least 60 to 70% of the books that I have. I think that's a good ballpark figure. But number 4, how do you decide whether to buy a book instead of borrowing it? I don't, even though I have good libraries near me, I have not been in the practice of borrowing books. I don't really know why. I think there is just something, whether it's the dopamine hit of buying a book that I really appreciate, or just like being able to possess it and come back to it. But I have started to borrow more books in the past year. In particular, I borrowed quite a few books over the summer. And I think one criteria that I am starting to adopt is, especially as I watch more BookTube videos and people recommend books, or there are book challenges or book events or things of that nature month to month. If there are popular fiction books where I don't know the author well, those are usually really good candidates for me to try and get through my library, because I don't know if I will like this author. And I've done that a little bit over the past year, and I think sometimes that was a real worthwhile thing to do, because a book that I might have been tempted to buy in the store, I got through the library and just realized I didn't really care for the author's writing or whatever it might have been. On the flip side of that, last year I became acquainted or curious about the author Liz Moore, who was the author of a book that was used as the basis for a TV series on Peacock, starring Amanda Seyfried, and it was The Long Bright River. And I had never heard of or read anything from Liz Moore, and so I ended up getting 3 of her books from the library, and really, really liking them and liking her as a writer. And so one of the three books that I borrowed, I went and bought for myself. And another book by Liz Moore, I just bought without borrowing from the library because I just realized I liked her writing. So, but anyway, I think borrowing books can be really handy in the case of authors or books that I don't know very well and I'm just not sure that I'm going to like. And yeah, and I think maybe for some nonfiction books that are not very large, at my library, the policy generally is I can sort of keep hold of a book for quite a while, but I'm still a little uncomfortable with having a library book for too long. I might lose it, something might happen to it, or I'll never know when they put a call in for it and I have to return it. So I think that's somewhat of a complicating factor in terms of deciding when to borrow or buy a book. But I have been in the past year much more deliberate in some of my book buying. And I think particularly in the area of fiction, targeting the library in many cases where I don't know the author or the subject matter very well. Number 5, what do you do with books after you read them? Keep them, unhaul them, donate, resell, etc. Well, I usually keep them. I have started unhauling some, and that takes the form of simply donating them to these kind of storage bins that are outside the libraries in my area. I've tried to resell some books, but I have not really, for whatever reason, I just have not found the used bookstores in the area very receptive to the books I want to turn in, and so that has not been a really fruitful enterprise. One of the used bookstores in my area did put up a sign saying, hey, these are the books that we would really be looking for in terms of you turning in books and we giving you credit or cash for them. And I felt that was really helpful. And most of the books on that list were not books that I had very many of. So I'm probably in a position of where, I'm just not going to get much of any, material or financial benefit from returning or donating my books, aside from opening up the space in the house for them. Number 6, what makes a book worth keeping on your shelf? That's a tough one. Nearly all of my books have some curiosity or interest level attached to them. I think the issue I'm kind of using to pare down my my stash is either authors that I've realized that I just kind of really don't like all that much, or books that whatever value they might have had for me, I just don't think I'm going to get around to reading them. Typically books that are of a more academic, substance. And I have quite a few of those dating from my college years, and things that I just imagined that I wanted to dig down deeper and learn more about. And again, as I am entering into the last third of my life, I think I am getting to the point where I'm getting to be a little bit more willing to look at some of these books and just go, yeah, I don't imagine myself reading this. So that's kind of what I'm going with right now. And yeah. So, 7, do you use an e-reader, and if so, has it reduced your physical book buying? Um, I have several e-readers. I recently got a new Paperwhite Kindle that's very nice, and it fits kind of well to hold on to. I think e-readers have some really good qualities, but especially for being able to adjust the size of the font. Again, as I get older, it an e-reader would really help in trying to balance. Do I buy a hardcover book that has larger font, or a lighter paperback book that has smaller font? Sometimes these nice trade paperbacks really kind of strike a good balance, and have really good font sizes, and they're not too heavy. But I'm not really answering the question. I used to use an e-reader quite a bit when I had very long commutes to and from work. I don't have that now, and it's not likely that I'm going to go be in a position where I'm gonna have to commute again. And of course, it would be good. E-readers are good for travel, but I don't travel much. But short answer is, I used to make quite a bit of use of my Kindle when I was commuting. I have not used it much lately. I am trying to shift some of my reading over to an e-reader, and for example, I have Kindle Unlimited, and that presents some free options for me if there's something, again, that's been recommended through BookTube that I can go to. An example of where I think I'm going to try to use the e-reader: I just got done reading a book called The Pope at War by David Kurtzer, I think his name is, and it's about Pope Pius XII and the Second World War. And this author has written a number of other books that are not, maybe were not officially prequels to the book I just read, but they are books that in the historical chronology predate this book. He has a book on the Pope and Mussolini that is about Pope Pius XI and the rise of Mussolini in the early 1920s. And then he has a book on the Pope and the Jews. And that has made me think that, one, I really did like this book, and I really like the author, and so I think I want to read more from this author. But do I really want to add these books to my physical shelves? So I did look for those books on Kindle, and I got the Pope and Mussolini for like $6.99. So I thought that was a good bargain, and so I'm going to follow up the book I just read with this earlier book on Kindle, and we'll see how that goes. Excuse me, my cat is desirous of attention, so he may interrupt us, but as long as he doesn't knock over my tripod here, we should be okay. 8. How often do you use the library instead of buying books, and for what kinds of reads? Talked a little bit about this earlier. I have been using the library more in the past year. Again, using it more for fiction reads where I don't know the author or necessarily the content of the book. And I think the library can sort of come in handy if there are books that I want to try out and I just am not really sure I want on my shelves. Like in the past year, I think I borrowed, Frankenstein and Dracula and the Picture of Dorian Gray, books that have maybe more of a horror or a supernatural element to them that I, just might not want to have on my shelves for whatever reason. Old Stephen King books. Used to be a big Stephen King reader. I think the only Stephen King book I have here at home is The Stand. But I think if I were to want to like reread any of his books, I would probably get them from the library. So books like that, you know, that I just have a sense that, yeah, it would be fun to read this again, but I just don't really care to own it. So, number 9, what's your biggest regret, purchase, or category of overbuying? Unread classics, BookTube hype, impulse buys, etc. I guess I have a couple categories. I think the one category that kind of annoys me about myself is going into a physical bookstore like Barnes and Noble, and this falls under the category of impulse buy, but snapping up a book that I haven't previously looked into or thought about or knew about, you know, and just based on the back cover or something, you know, buying it without having really looked into it, or tried it out on Kindle or something like that. And I think I also, this isn't quite as big of a regret, but when I was doing a lot of book buying, I used to buy a lot from Amazon, and I would buy new release hardcover books, you know, they were of course on sale, but they were still pretty expensive. 30% off, 34% off, that sort of thing that those sorts of deals Amazon used to do. But again, like the brand new release hardcovers, just, nah, I think in the past year, the number of new release hardcovers that I've bought, I could probably identify on one hand. So that's sort of a category of book I've really gotten away from buying. You know, I can wait for the paperback. You know, there's no need to pay full sticker price or over $20 or close to $30 for a brand new hardcover book that, so I guess I sort of, you know, regret those types of purchases. Number 10, final question. If you had to cap your library at a fixed number, say 100 books, how would you decide what stays? I don't know, but what I am starting to do is I've never really had a TBR, but I am starting to create a kind of TBR that some of which are books that I have started but have not finished multiple times, or books I just know I really want to read. So I think what I would probably do although 100 is an awful low cap for me, I would, but just as a round, you know, I think what I would do is I would take like a single bookshelf that might hold, you know, 100 books or more, and I think I would just go through all of my shelves and say, yeah, this is a book that I really want to read, or it might be a book that I don't know if I can get a copy of it anywheres. I mean, that's sort of that's one of the things about kind of book buying and book collecting. Yeah, sure, a lot of these books can be gotten from Kindle or can be found used, but you never know. You know, trying to get hunting the used bookstores is very hit or miss, and you just never know when you're just not going to, when certain types of books are going to disappear from the shelves, and are for whatever reason just going to be harder to get. I've noticed there was an author I used to read a lot, John Connolly, who he's an Irish writer, but he bases a lot of his novels in Maine, of the United States. and he writes he's a kind of an occult detective, the main character. And I did, his books are, I can go into a bookstore and get some of his recent, his most recent books, but, a lot of his earlier books are not available in a typical bookstore. And of course I could get them online. But, I think, and then there are just books that just, they just don't keep publishing them. So that might be part of my decision-making process. But so I would sort of, try to narrow my books down to like one bookshelf or possibly two bookshelves, and just what were the ones that just I felt like I just really wanted to read, and thought that I might not be able to find again or would have difficulty getting again. So that's it. So that's the end of these questions. I'm not going to tag anyone, but if you're watching this video, please consider yourself tagged. I would like to read any or watch any video that you would do, and if you don't have your own BookTube channel, please feel free to respond to any of the prompts down in the comments below. And I want to thank Alex for creating this book Q&A and for his video, and thank Mike at Bibliophile Bookscape for his response video. Each of those videos I watched, and they sort of helped me think about how I wanted to respond, and also just sort of gave me some ideas of thinking about the books in my collection and how I want to handle them. So thank you for watching this video, and I hope to be back soon with another video and to see you all again soon. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.